Hello and welcome to Dear Franny, the podcast of uncommon conversations about love. I'm your host, Francesca Hogi. Hello. Today is Friday, March 27th. I'm recording this and releasing this on the same day. I don't even know what day it is of the lockdown, the pandemic, just the state that we are in, certainly here in Los Angeles and certainly lots of other places in the world. Of course, there are lots of places that aren't locked down at all, especially here in the U.S. But in L.A., we've been locked down for, I mean, I'm losing all track of time. I really am. But it's been a minute. And it's been a very interesting time, to say the least. Obviously very stressful, and there is a lot of unknown, a lot of uncertainty, and that causes a lot of fear and feelings of a lot of instability, and everyone is coping with that in their own way. And I know that for myself, I had a couple of days this week where I was just, I don't know, I'm calling it like the COVID blues. Like I definitely just had this sense of overwhelm, just because of all the uncertainty. None of us like uncertainty. Certainly not something as fearful. And when people are getting sick, and more people are going to get sick, and people are dying, and it's a scary time. So I keep on saying, every time anyone asks me how I'm doing, I'm like, I'm taking it one day at a time, because that is really that's really all we can do. But I also, a couple of nights ago, I realized that, okay, it's time for me to kind of shift gears here from the shock and the stress of what's going on in the world and the pandemic, and to really shift into, well, given that this is going to be our new normal for an unforeseen amount of time, but certainly a while. I mean, I hear people saying things like, oh, well, it'll just be a month and everything will be back to normal. And I'm like, I don't think that's actually true. But, I'm not here to predict the future. But I am preparing myself for much longer than that. And I don't know. It'll be really interesting to see how the world changes, the ways in which the world changes once this this global pandemic has gotten under control, and we return to some semblance of normal life. But I don't know. I don't think that things are going to ever be exactly the same, because they never are. The only thing that is constant is change, right? So this is a massive lesson in uncertainty, the uncertainty of life. And there's so many things that we just took for granted even a couple of weeks ago, that, you could walk into any store and buy toilet paper, that you could go to work, that you could go out to dinner, that you could go to your gym, and, all sorts of things that it's not the case. You could hang out with your friends, you could take a vacation. And now it's like, oh, I don't know when any of those things are going to be able to occur again. So it's crazy. But this is what I really wanted to talk about today. I'm not telling you anything you don't know, but I think it's time to kind of shift into, all right, given that this is the situation for a while, we don't know how long, we don't know how many waves this virus is going to have before it gets under control. We might have a few months locked down and then kind of return to normalcy somewhat, and then have another wave and have to lock down again. I live with a scientist, so I'm like, I get the real science perspective on this, and kind of detach in terms of like, well, this is how viruses work, and this is how coronaviruses work, and this is how pandemics work. And so I'm preparing myself for the long haul here emotionally. And along with that comes, okay, what do I want the next 3, 6, 9, 12 months to look like? Given all the limitations, what can we accomplish? And, I obviously, when it comes to dating, this is on the one hand thrown a huge wrench into the plans of a lot of people and into the routines of a lot of people, into the relationships of a lot of people. And I'm not saying today that I have all the answers. I'm not saying that I'm going to have all the answers, but I at least wanted to have a conversation about it, and I wanted to give you some advice depending on where you are in your love journey, and just to check in with you and to see, really for you to check in with yourself and to see what you are prepared for and preparing for and how you're going to stay connected. Because, the one thing that's going to save us here is each other. And that's on a lot of levels. That's in terms of people really self-isolating and social distancing and slowing the spread of this virus, which is going at a very, very alarming rate in the U.S. And, we now have, as of yesterday, we are the country that has the most coronavirus infections, COVID-19 infections, I should say, to be more precise. And that number is going to increase rapidly, as we've seen day over day and week over week. So it's hard to talk about anything without going back to the reality of the situation. But the only thing that's going to save us is each other. So in terms of slowing the spread of the virus, and in terms of staying connected to each other, and there is, for me, and I hope for you, the idea that you're going to opt out of connection, you're going to opt out of romance, or the possibility of romance, you're going to opt out of intimacy for the next year or 6 months or 3 months. I don't want to freak people out by saying a year. For the next however long this is going to last, it's not an option, right? We're not opting out of those things that are so fundamental to our happiness and our fulfillment. So I kind of want to break this down in terms of where you might be and where your head is at and your status right now. So if you are listening to this and you are single, and I mean, you're single and not dating anyone. So it's not as if though you had a relationship that was budding before all of this happened, but you're really just, there's really no one on the horizon at the moment. I actually think that this is a good opportunity. I think it's a good opportunity for you if you are in this category. And what I mean by that is that we have such a busy, distracted, short attention span society and culture in general. And now everyone is forced to hit pause. Whether you like it or not, you got to hit pause. You got to slow down. And unless you're a healthcare worker or in some other essential service where your life is actually maybe even more hectic now than usual. And I just want to send some love to everyone in that position. All the truck drivers, grocery drivers, nurses, doctors, social workers, everyone who's out there on the front lines who are making the rest of our lives possible. I appreciate you, the delivery people, the postal people. I mean, it's like there's an army of people whose lives are not on pause. So I do want to just acknowledge that and not think that everyone is like home watching Netflix, because that is certainly not the case. And then there are people who are just working their regular jobs, and even if you're working it from home, you're still really busy. But even if you are not in a profession or position where you're extra crazed right now because you're one of the few who's able to actually deliver services for the rest of us, you are paused somewhat, right? Even if it's just now you don't have a commute. Now you don't have to, you're not running around trying to see your friends all the time or go to the gym. So there's more time, okay? Bottom line. And I think that because of that, there is an opportunity, obviously using online dating apps and the like, and even actually not even just online dating doesn't just have to be dating apps and dating websites. It could also be Facebook. It could also be Instagram. It could also be LinkedIn. It could also be anywhere that you spend time online where there are other people. There is an opportunity for you to connect with those other people. I am really advocating that people Join Facebook groups to stay connected. I started a Facebook group called Distanced but Not Disconnected. Feel free to look that up and join my group. It's for people who just want some support during this time. I'll put a link to that in the show notes. And there's so many groups that are, that are out there for every interest. You've seen those Facebook commercials. It's true. And not to just plug Facebook, but it's just an easy example of ways to connect that we've taken for granted, but I think are going to be really, really important right now and in the weeks and months going forward. So I think that there is an opportunity for you to, if you are single, and even if you're not single, there's still an opportunity for you to have more connections and to deepen connections with people. Technology is really our friend right now. So, I'm so grateful that this isn't like some natural disaster that's like taken out all of our cell towers and power down, because that would be, oh my gosh, okay, that'd be terrible. But so we're not in that situation. Luckily, you're listening to this podcast right now. You have power. I have power. I have internet. It's all good. And there is a chance to return to a bit of an old-fashioned type of courtship where you actually have to spend time getting to know each other, talking to each other, doing virtual dates. I've been pushing people to do virtual dates and really treat it like a date. Set a time, wear what you would wear if you were going on a date. Decide, are we going to have dinner together? Are we going to have a drink together? Are we going to have a cup of coffee together? Are we going to take a walk together? Obviously virtually, right? You're on your device, they're on their device. You're in separate locations. I'm not advocating that people meet face-to-face for dates right now, for obvious reasons, but virtual dating is a real thing, and there is creativity that is required. But I've already been getting great feedback from people. I just got another text message this morning from someone who I had challenged to go on a virtual date last week, and she did, and it was great. And I have a couple of clients who have gone on virtual dates this week, and they reported back that they were great and they felt really connected and they had fun, and it was fun to get dressed and, not just be in kind of like everyone's in their loungewear right now. And that was a really cool experience for them. So I very, very, very much encourage you to not at all think that this is a time to say, okay, well, now I can't date anyone. No, that's not true. This is a time for you to get to know people. It takes more effort to have, video dates and to have phone conversations, and to have a longer courtship. It definitely takes more effort, but that's a good thing, because you're likely to, if you can actually create a connection with someone. And I don't want it to just be on text. I want to just make that clear, because I think texting is different. I happen to love texting. I'm a big texter in my life in general. I text everyone. But I think that when it comes to dating, texting can really create a false sense of intimacy. And, the way people express themselves on text is just not necessarily how they express themselves face to face. And so I want to encourage people to really do video dates, and to really, phone calls and video dates is really have to be the primary way that you're communicating. Just for day-to-day stuff, of course, texting is fine, but it's hard to really get to know someone and know their character over text. So, and texting is so easy that it's just a low effort thing to do. And so here's an opportunity to actually devote real effort. So the effort of getting on a video call, of setting a time, treating it like a date, the effort of talking on the phone is something that not everyone's going to want to do. And people who don't want to do that, at least okay, they're not willing to put in the effort. But I think that more and more, it might be too soon to tell right now, but I really do believe that more and more this is going to become the norm. People are going to meet their future spouses right now during this pandemic. It's going to happen. People are going to connect online, and they're going to spend weeks or months talking to each other and chatting with each other, and they're going to fall in love. It is going to happen, guaranteed. it might happen a lot. There might be a lot of, Corona weddings coming out of this, in a year or so. I don't have any doubt. So I want to just give you that encouragement if you are single and worried about, oh my God, what do I do now? There is still a way, and I think it's a great opportunity. Now, if you are actually dating someone, if you'd already been dating someone when this all started, but you don't live together, so this is a category. I have a client right now who is in this situation. Actually, I have a couple of clients who are in this situation right now where they're in relationships with people and they don't live with those people. And actually, more than a couple. I have clients who are in this situation right now. They don't live with their partners, and there's those relationships are at varying stages. Some people, it's like we've just started seeing each other and we were having a great time getting to know each other. Some people, it's no, we're together, we're committed, but we don't live together, and we can't live together right now for various reasons, and so you're physically separated. And for people who are in that category, my heart goes out to you because it sucks. It's just fucking hard, right? So I'm a big fan of just acknowledging that something is hard because it is. I don't live in denial. It's hard and it's a challenge and it's going to require creativity. But again, it can be done. You can continue to grow and strengthen your relationship. It's just going to look different. It just is. And, in terms of whether or not you're going to see each other face to face, that is an individual decision, obviously, depending on your situation and the amount of risk that you are comfortable with, how much you are self-isolating. But I definitely encourage you to, be honest with yourself about, okay, maybe you're a person, I have a client right now, she's having a really hard time because she is she has asthma, and she already had a respiratory infection this year that was very, very, very serious. And she's healed from that, thankfully. But, her partner, her boyfriend is not self-isolating and social distancing to the same extent that she is. And partially it's because of his living situation, partly it's because of his work. And partly it's because he's just, I don't know if he's completely grasped the severity of the situation. So, so she made the decision, she and I talked this week and made the decision that, for now, they're not going to see each other. And they had been seeing each other last week. He'd been coming over, but at this point, he's had exposure to a lot of people, and it's just really dangerous for her. So you've got to just know for yourself. I have another client, the guy that she's been seeing, her beau, they've both been self-isolating, and the only time that they are not self-isolating is when he is getting in his car and driving to her apartment. And so they both feel very comfortable with that. And I think that that's a totally different situation. So if you have that situation, then yes, maybe face-to-face does make sense. But, there's no easy answer here. This is really about understanding your own risk, the risk of your partner, and having a very honest conversation about it. I mean, I think, communication is always important, but it's especially important right now. I had to go out yesterday to run a couple errands, and when I left, my boyfriend was like, no non-essential stops, because we're isolating and we're trying to be as careful as we can. And, like I said, we're relying on each other here. All of us are relying on each other. So if he's self-isolating and doing a really good job of that, but I decide I need to go and, get some, I don't know. I had to go to the drugstore yesterday because I had to pick up a prescription, and there were so many people in there, and I was like, oh, this is stressing me out. I tried to get in and out of there as quickly as I could. But it's our decisions right now impact other people. So keeping those lines of communication open are really important. But like I said, virtual dating is a real thing. I encourage you to do it. You can have phone sex. You can have virtual sex. You can really get very creative about how you're going to stay connected. You can write each other letters. You can, find ways to feel that intimacy, feel that connection, and maybe even make it fun, and maybe even make it exciting, and maybe make it romantic, and maybe make it sexy. And, I know that right now you might feel like, oh God, I'm just so stuck in feeling that this is awful that I can't even imagine that. But I would just urge you to consider the possibility, because it is possible. So that is my advice if you are seeing someone and you are physically separated. And if you are living with your partner, if you are cohabitating and you are feeling all sorts of ways about that, good, bad, mixed, whatever, this goes for everyone, and no matter what your situation is, that we have to take care of ourselves. So we've got to do the things that we need to do to emotionally, mentally, physically do the best that we can right now. Before recording this morning, I took a virtual yoga class over Zoom, and it was great. It was the first one I've done, and I'm like, oh, I'm definitely going to be doing this at least a few times a week. I felt so much better after that. And, yoga may not be your thing, but there are so many virtual things happening right now. If you like to dance, there are, Debbie Allen has been doing dance classes on Instagram. D Nice, who's an amazing DJ, has been doing Club Quarantine, and he's been spinning records for hours on Instagram, like amazing music, and people are having dance parties in their living rooms. So, whatever it is that you need to do. We actually moved this week, so it was just crazy. I know not a great time to move, but I found a jump rope, and I was like, oh yes, I have a jump rope. This is another way I can get some exercise. So, just knowing, I know myself, and I know that if I don't move my body, then I'm going to get really, really, I'm not going to be in a good place. So, go outside and take a walk, obviously being, socially distancing yourself while you're doing that, or a bike ride. But there's whatever you need to do. I'm journaling every day. I mean, I do that anyway, but I think it's extra important right now. Don't oversaturate yourself with news. It's easy to just fall down a rabbit hole of news about the pandemic and all of the things going on. Stay informed, but don't overdose on the news. It is not good for you. It just isn't. The news, in the best of times, is they're making their living on selling fear and selling panic, and because that's what gets our attention. And it's just a lot. So social media, same thing. If you're on social media, and I go on Twitter a few times a day, every day. And I usually have to, after a few minutes, I'm like, okay, I'm all cut up. Everyone's freaking out. Everything's terrible. I got it. And then I got to go off of it because it's not good for my mental health. So we all have to really pay attention to how we're feeling and what we can do to make ourselves feel better, what we can do to make ourselves stay in a better place, how we can stay connected to other people who aren't our partners, right? If you have kids, then obviously you have an even more challenging situation being home with your kids and, having to navigate that. And I'm sure for kids, it's so hard. One of my friends posted on Instagram today a note that her son had written her. And he is, how old is Henry? He is 10. Yep, he turned 10 in November. And he wrote a note that said, I will get my work done. I'm paraphrasing because I don't have it in front of me, but it was like, I will get my work done, but I don't want to talk to you or dad for a long time. Only notes. I'm only writing notes because he just needs some space from them. I'm like, oh my gosh, poor baby. So we all need that, right? So I think it's awesome that at 10 he knew that I need a break. I'm going to do my work, but I can't talk to you right now. I just can't. I'm going to write you guys notes. I need a break from you. So, I think that we all need to honor those breaks. We need to have those lines of communication open with our partners. If it's about hey honey, I need some alone time. So can you please have the kids in this room and so I can go in this other room and, I'll do the same for you. Or, whatever it takes to just make sure that you are not that you're carving out some space for yourself. That's always the most important thing. I don't care if you're single. I don't care if you're married, kids, no kids, carving out space for yourself and really taking care of yourself. Self-care, as I define it, is really thinking about, how do I want to feel? So how do you want to feel when you wake up every morning? How do you want to feel as you're navigating this uncharted territory? And not that there's a perfect answer, but you want to at least say, okay, well, I know that I'm feeling really stressed. I want to feel relaxed. I don't want to feel stressed. I want to feel relaxed, right? I want to feel hopeful. I want to feel productive. I want to feel connected. However it is that you want to feel. That's step one, is really defining that. And then step two is saying, okay, what are the actions I can take to support myself in feeling that way? And the answers could be as simple as, I don't watch the news, right? Or I watch the news for 5 minutes a day. I don't actually ever watch the news because I just don't ever like the news. I don't ever like how the news makes me feel. And that's something that I realized about myself a long time ago. I haven't watched the news since the 2016 election, because that was a shit show. And by the way, we see the importance of voting, by the way, here in the United States. Everyone who thought that, like, it doesn't really matter who's president, we see what happens when we don't have leadership that's actually giving people real guidance, and who's really setting an example and is relying on the experts, right, to give advice. That's a whole other conversation, right? So we see the importance of leadership, and how many people will actually get sick and die due to poor leadership. So that's a real thing. But so I don't watch the news because I know that the news is not good for me. And I know that for the things that I want to do in the world, and how I want to be of service to other people, and how I want to show up in my relationships, I need to take care of myself. And that is something I decided a long time ago. So I'm not saying don't watch the news. And if you might watch the news and it doesn't have that same emotional effect on you. So, everyone's different. It's not a matter of doing what I do. It's a matter of checking in with yourself and deciding, what do I need to do in order to support myself in feeling the way that I want to feel. It could be that, you haven't left the house in 10 days and you need to go outside and take a walk. Depending on where you live, if you live in a place that's very densely populated and there are lots of people out, and I know that can be more challenging, but if you're lucky enough to live in a place where you can take a walk and you can still do that and socially distance at the same time, like, take advantage of that. We need to move our bodies. We need fresh air. Walking is just good for you emotionally, mentally. I'm a huge advocate and fan of walking in general. Read a novel, take a break, whatever it is. I'm kind of going on and on here, but you get the idea. I just want to really give you that encouragement to take care of yourself first, so you can then support the other people in your life. So going back to people who are in relationships, having that level of communication, those lines of communication open, and just even to revisit things and even just say, hey, how about for the next couple of days, we try doing XYZ, and then we'll revisit it and see, like, maybe we're going to switch things up, right? Like, just to know that this is a rapidly evolving situation. No one has all the answers, but we're in this together, and the communication is what's going to make it so that we can get through this with the most amount of ease. And that's what I really want for you. I want you to get through this with the most amount of ease. And whether you're single, whether you are in a relationship, staying connected to yourself, staying connected to other people, reaching out to your friends, reaching out to your family, to your loved ones, having virtual dinners and coffee dates and cocktail parties with your friends across the world and even next door who you can't see right now. All of those things are really, really valuable. So we need each other. And I just want to encourage you to continue to stay creative and open about how we connect during this time, but it's all about connection. That's what we're here for. So I hope that this has been helpful for you. Like I said, I don't claim to have any perfect answers here. This is a very challenging and rapidly evolving situation, but I'm sending you so much love, and I'm going to keep podcasting. There'll be more interviews coming up in the next weeks. And, we're going to talk about this because this is the thing that's dominating, obviously, everyone's minds and lives right now. So stay tuned. Stay tuned for more. And also a couple of other things I want to tell you about while I have you here. So as I mentioned in the show notes, I will link to the Facebook group that I started, Distanced But Not Disconnected. Additionally, for people who want to have a brainstorming session with me and you want to figure out like, okay, what's my strategy for dating now? What am I going to do for work now? If you're a person who, especially if you're a solo business person or a freelancer, and now you're like, shit, I don't know what I'm going to do. My business has been totally disrupted. For anyone who's basically just freaking out about COVID-19 and how it's affecting you, I am offering pay what you can sessions. So it's one hour session. I will put the link in the show notes as well, so you can click on that link and schedule a session with me. I've been doing a few of those, and it's been great, and been really helpful for people. And so that's been really gratifying for me. So I don't want costs to discourage you, because like I said, it's pay what you can. So the link to that is in the show notes. I am also still doing virtual sound baths. I've done 2 so far. Because I just moved, and, everything is still a little bit, in flux, and we're still unpacking, getting settled. I'm not going to be doing one this weekend, but I am going to be doing one next Sunday, April 5th at noon Pacific time, which is 3 p.m. Eastern time, which is 8 p.m. UK time, and, on and on and on. And so, hopefully for some of you who have wanted to join the sound baths, but I've been doing them pretty in the evenings Pacific time, so that's kind of time prohibitive for some of you, this is your chance. So I will also put a link in the show notes to RSVP for the virtual sound bath, and that is free of charge. This is my gift to my community. So they've been great. This past week I had a great guest, my friend Megan Hook, who is also a sound healing practitioner, and she's also a singer and a musician, and she came and she sang, and it was beautiful. And trust me, this is a good thing, very, very, very relaxing. And then lastly, for those of you who see now that maybe this is an opportunity for you to go deeper and to really transform your life. Maybe you're ready to break a bad dating pattern. You're ready to get clear on what it is you need to live the life that you want, to have a relationship that you want. And you're open to coaching, and you want to talk about what that would look like and get a sample of what coaching with me is like, then you can also book a free coaching discovery session with me. It's a 45-minute session. Bring me your biggest challenge right now, your biggest problem relating to love, relating to your life, your lifestyle. And I promise you that you will have a perspective shift in that 45 minutes. And I can tell you about what working with me entails, and we can decide if that is a good fit for you. So those are 4 things I want to tell you about: the Facebook group, the pay what you can sessions, the virtual sound baths, and also the coaching discovery session. So links to all of that in the show notes. Okay. And of course, the podcast is going to keep going. I appreciate you so much for listening. I hope that you are safe and you are healthy wherever you are in the world. And I don't take for granted that you have spent some of your precious time with me today. So I thank you from the bottom of my heart, sending you a big virtual hug and lots of love. Until next time, take care. Oh, wait. No, one more thing. Sorry. I forgot to tell you also to stay in touch with the podcast. I'm at Dear Franny on all social media, especially Instagram, Twitter, Facebook. And the podcast is at Dear Franny Podcast on Instagram and Facebook. So stay in touch with us, and I'd love to hear from you guys. Thank you. Okay, now it's the real goodbye. Have a great day. Mwah.